Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast. And yes, we are your number one podcast. We bring you stories around death, dying, and grief and all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people, with some amazing stories out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on my next guest, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, please share it along with them. Now, before I bring on my guest, I got one other thing I need to say. It is for educational purposes only. And yes, of course, this is a live stream. So if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my guest, Tiffany Colvin, to the show. Tiffany.
Hello, good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Whatever, it's a good day.
Right? And you covered all bases because we never know when people are going to tune in.
We don't know where they're at.
I love it. I love it. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to have you. Now, before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
So my name is Tiffany Colvin. I am a author, a writer, a mother, an advocate, a lover of all things God and faith. I am a survivor, an overcomer, an overachiever, I guess. All of those overs I am. But I am fearfully and wonderfully made by my creator, and I am here to execute and to help others in finding their purpose in life.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for the work that you do. Share with the audience just your journey, your story of how you became who you are today.
So I will say that I owe my greatest credit to my parents, especially my mother. She was a woman of faith who made sure we went to church for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I say, you know what? I as a little girl was that little girl that after they were done doing communion, I was the one back there drinking all the extra communion cups because I knew I needed I didn't know how much I was going to need it in life, but apparently, even as a small child, I knew that I needed my faith and that I was going to have to endure some challenges in life. I have dealt with the subject of the hour, which is grief. Both in losing my parents as well as grieving the loss of maybe a future thought of for your children, grieving the loss of a job, grieving the loss of a career or where you thought you would be in life. And I think sometimes when we think of grief, we think of somebody died. But grief can come in different forms and fashions. And so I just want to open and expand people's minds to that. But I don't want to just stop there. I want them to understand that through our pain, there is purpose. And I just believe that by having faith, we understand that all things work together for the good. I say, people go through their Judas kiss moment, that time in life where we feel like, oh my God, why did you allow this to happen to me? But things happen for a reason, and we have to understand why God allowed that to happen in our life.
I'm glad that you said that because a lot of times people don't understand it, right? Because when you're in the mix of it, I'm guilty of it myself. I think a lot of human beings out here, when we're going through it, it's really hard to see the other side of it, right? Because man, I can tell you, there's been some dark moments, some really, really dark moments where I was just like, you know what? Okay, like I'm not quite sure why I got to go through this, but we're gonna do it. And then there's times where you think that it's supposed to be over,
yes,
and it's consistent, right?
Yes.
It's consistent, and it doesn't have a time frame. It's done when it's supposed to be done.
That's right.
And I tell you, it's really hard for people to keep their head about them when they're going through it. because you go. I mean, and what I mean by that, like I'm gonna use my own personal experience. I remember times where it really got bad and things like that, and you would think that would last maybe about a week or two. Then a month go by, and you're just like, hold on, I'm still going through this.
Yes.
Go by, you like, okay, at some point we can stop this. No, the first year go by, you just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do it. And then you just kind of put your head down and go, yep, this sucks. And then, but if you do have the mental fortitude to,
Yes.
to get through it, there's something on the other side. It
Yes.
doesn't mean that it's going to completely stop though, but it just means that you may have just gotten through one stage of it, right? You know what I'm saying? That you get a little bit of reprieve.
That's right.
So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that?
So definitely, I think I always heard the verse in the Bible that says, that we're going through things. A lot of times we talk about death, and we talk about as we go through that season of death. And what I've learned is that you touched on that word through. We are going through it, and so we cannot sit in the state and in the place that we are currently. We have to understand, we have to activate, as someone this week expounded on to me, we have to activate an active faith. And regardless of what we're going through, we have to understand that there's purpose in it, and all things work together for the good. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, God ordained everything to happen at the time, that specific time, at that specific place. And so we have to learn to continue to renew our minds daily and understand that this too shall pass. We are going through, yea, though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. And the thing about it, again, is we are going through it. But a lot of times we get stuck. And so that's why it's so important for us to talk about it. Let's talk about the grief. Let's talk about the things in our life that are challenging us, because a lot of times we isolate. And when we isolate, there's no one to talk to but those voices in our head. And those voices in our head are not good voices a lot of times. So we have to take the time, and if we need to go even further, because we have our spirituality, we have our trust and faith in God, but sometimes that's not enough for everybody. Some of us need some additional help. We might need therapy. And we cannot feel like it's a negative thing or it's taboo because, we haven't prayed enough. We have to say, you know what, this is an investment in myself. And so let me see what I need to do to recalibrate, to feel better, to look better. And if that means just every day, I know some days when I didn't feel good, it was like I learned, somebody said, well, just put some lipstick on, just do this, do that. Try bright colors, try different scents, try different sounds, anything that's going to renew you and help you to recalibrate yourself.
Yeah. And honestly, there's a lot that goes into that, right? Because sometimes people will look past certain things because it doesn't look the way that they want it to look, right? And it goes. I remember a story. There's a story about a young lady, and she got a message from an angel, and the angel said, Jesus is going to come, and he wants to have milk with you. So she rushes. She leaves her home. She rushes to the store to go get this milk. Right? She's like, oh my God, I gotta go. She goes to the store. She buys the milk. She's on her way home, and there's a homeless guy sitting on a corner, and he's thirsty. And she walks past him, and he looks at her and goes, "Ma'am, do you think I can get a drink of your milk?" She goes, I got company coming over and everything. She stands there because, deep down inside, she's like, I want to give it to him, but I don't want to miss my meeting, you know what I'm saying, with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And she stands there, she goes, and she stops, she goes, you know what? Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can. And she gives him the milk, right?
Uh-huh.
And he looks at her He goes, well, thank you so much. He walks off, and she's worried because now she don't know if she has enough milk.
Uh-huh.
And she goes back home, and she's sitting there, and the angel comes back, and this woman is crying. I'm so sorry, I missed my appointment, and I fear that I don't have enough milk for Jesus when he comes.
Uh-huh.
And the angel says, well, Jesus says to thank you for the milk. He really enjoyed it.
That's right. That's right.
See what I mean? So a lot of times people may miss those simple messages because it's not dressed up in diamonds and rubies. It's not shiny like you may think it is.
Yes.
And so, it's something to keep in mind for those individuals out there that, may be struggling with your faith. Don't miss the message.
Yes.
Because the messenger don't look the way that you think it should.
That is so true. And I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of times when we're going through stuff, we think it is about us. But I've learned that part of the purpose of our pain is so that other people can see us and see that we are an example and that they too can make it through the things that they're going through. So sometimes we're just so selfish with our struggle, and we don't want to share it. We don't want to be transparent. But that's part of the pride that I think that God wants us to put aside a lot of times, and say, you know what, I too struggled with this, and find commonality and strength with each other. And that is so true, because there is purpose. God doesn't make mistakes. And so we have to remember that each and every day, and we have to wake up. And I wake up and I say that every day is a gift, and we have to open it with intentionality and wisdom, regardless of what we are going through. It is a package that has been unwrapped, an opportunity that has been unwrapped. And it is up to us to say, you know what? I don't care what things look like, how bad it looks, how bad it gets. Because when I say it got bad in my life, it got bad. And I remember people used to say, oh, the Lord doesn't give you too many burdens that you can't bear or whatever. And I used to say, you know what? I feel like I'm a pack mule because he is putting way too much on me. But we have to remember that we're built for it. Whatever you're going through, you are built for it. And we have to keep that in the back of our minds, even on those times when we feel like, oh my God, I can't make it anymore. It's just one step at a time, one day at a time. I think about the children of Israel. He gave them manna for the day, our daily bread. And sometimes we want to collect it up and we want to hoard it. But what happens if we hoard bread? If we hoard it, it's going to mold. It's not going to be any good for us anyway. And so we have to remember that he gives us our daily bread. So daily we have to go to him. Daily we have to seek him. Daily we have to renew our minds. Daily we have to say, you know what, God, I surrender my life to you. And whatever it is you want to do is what I'm going to do for the day. I had to get to a point where, it says every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. And so, we have to get to that point that we bow down and we say, you know what, God, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah. You said some things in there, and I want to unpack some of it, right? Because I think one of the biggest things when it comes down to grief, right, and faith and things like, this is where people struggle. Most people go through life in survival mode. They don't know how to surrender. I used to be one of them. You would have to take my life away from me before I surrender to anything, because I refuse to be whooped. I refuse to be whooped by anything.
Okay.
Right. And I didn't know how to surrender that. Right.
Yeah.
Second thing is, when you're in survival mode, you don't know how to ask for help.
No.
Because life teaches you, people teach you that you can't trust them.
That's right.
Majority of the people that you're around will teach you that you can't trust them.
Yes.
I say change the people that you're around.
That's true.
So, you know what I'm saying? But most people don't know how to move past that or move through that, right? Because it's familiar.
Yes.
If I move away from this, can I trust that I'm going to be okay? And most people, this is what they'll say: I trust God.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't move the way that they need to.
That's true.
So the question is that do you really trust them?
That's good.
Or
That's
is it just, does it just sound good?
yes, yes, yes.
Right?
It's something we say. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another thing. Here's another thing that people don't understand. Because when you're in the midst of going through the messiness of grief, it
Mm-hmm.
sucks.
Yes.
It hurts. It's emotional. It is messy.
Yes.
People get wrapped into that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but people, here's what the other side that people miss, and the way that it was divinely designed.
Mm-hmm.
It is the deepest human connection that you can have with one another.
That's true.
And so, when you're going through it, the people that are coming to you,
Mm-hmm.
you got to weed through them a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to find some people that may not understand what you're going through. Then you hear that one thing: hey, man, I understand what you're going through. And you're looking at that person like, are you messing with me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, I just went through 20 other people.
Mm-hmm.
Are you messing with me?
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that that person's not messing with you, but do you trust them?
Yes.
Do you trust it enough to say, this is how it's supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know how to do that neither,
Yeah.
right? And then here's another good point. Most people are afraid to see what's on the other side of their pain.
True. True.
So I want to get your thoughts on those. I mean, you opened up the doors, and and I think that's just something to talk about right now.
Yes.
Like, you know.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I remember when my mother was a mother, she was a woman of faith, and so I believed, okay, she's going to be healed, she's going to be fine, and the healing didn't come the way that I expected. I expected, okay, she's going to get up, she's going to be fine, and so I don't think I ever fathomed that she would pass away, because I grew up in the church. I grew up praying and having faith and believing, and I saw my mother as strong. And what I learned in death was I had to show my children what it looked like for me not to be strong, because especially young men, if they've never seen that woman in a vulnerable state, then how can they know how to process that? Because I don't think I knew how to process it. In my mind, I remember going through the funeral, making the arrangements, doing all that, the rigmarole of that. And I remember weeks later feeling like, well, in my mind, I was telling myself, I just haven't called her. She's fine. I just haven't called. But that was how my brain needed to process it for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll just like it didn't happen, because that's what we do. That's the response of the body. And so I had to walk through that, and that is a different journey. And as people go through grief, they have to understand the different stages of it. They have to understand that, the first thing is, well, why, God? We question God. We say, well, why did this happen? But as we get further and further, I say down the road, because we never totally absolve ourselves of grief.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that, hey, you know what? I look at it from this vantage point. Remember the 99 sheep and the one. God, he'll leave the 99 for the one. And I thought of it, I kind of reversed it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to think about the 99 good things that are going on, instead of that one problem that I have, that I'm facing right now, which may be that grief. I'm going to say, you know what, God, I wake up every day and I have breath. I thank you that I have the gift of a new day. I started to turn it around and renew my mind and say, you know what, this is bad. This is all bad. But what are you trying to teach me in this? What lesson are you trying to teach? Because there's always a lesson to be taught, to be learned. And so what I learned was I wanted especially my sons, I wanted them to see me cry. And so now I cry. When I cry, I don't go hide. I don't go shut the door so they don't see me. I just say, you know what? Let them see me cry. And you know what I noticed? These two young men started to come over and put their hand on me. And it's teaching them how to do that, so that when they grow up, there will be that empathy, that sympathy, that understanding that when you see a woman cry, you do something. You may not know everything to do, but I think even when we speak to African American men, we speak to men in general, sometimes they don't know what to do. They've never seen it. And even our young women, they've never seen it. I always saw my mother as strong. So it is so important that we do that. It's so important that we share our losses, we share our feelings, and let someone else know that I understand what you're going through, and learning that, hey, it's not just, I really paid attention to the fact that, you know how people say, oh, I'm praying for you, and they know, don't say that if you're not gonna do it. And if you're not, and I got convicted of that. If I said, oh, yeah, I'm praying for you. No, you better do it, because to me, God is going to hold you accountable as well. So it's so important.
Can I add to that? Because you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I want people to practice discernment when it comes down to that as well, right? So if a person says that they're praying for you, ask them what they're praying for.
That's true.
For you.
That's true.
Right?
That's good.
Are you? But most importantly, here's something that I learned throughout my walk, coming from some dark areas and learning to walk again. I had to learn how to ask for protection. So see, and now I'm saying this to say to let people know, your first prayer over you should always come from you. Right? You know what I'm saying? Pray for protection.
Yes.
Pray for wisdom. Pray for grace. Pray for forgiveness.
Yes.
Right? Pray for discernment.
Yes.
Pray for understanding, gratitude, and appreciation.
Yes.
Right. And the reason why I say these things, because they're simple things that you take for granted.
So true.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to miss the butterfly that just came out of the cocoon.
Yes.
I don't want you to miss that new leaf on the tree, because it's shaking like this. And it don't look like this. It don't look like the rest of them. Listen in order to respond. Yes. But also listen in order to understand.
Yes.
And what I mean by that now, do you remember, I'm not saying listening to react, because that's an emotional response. Yes. Response to something. Listen to respond in kindness. Right? But listen to respond in understanding. Yes. Yes. So my question to the audience, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you say something. I want to ask a question to the audience, for those that are tuning in. Have you ever gone through something and missed a message because the messenger didn't look the way that you thought that it should?
Oh, that's good.
If so, what was it? Right? Since we're talking about this and everything, let's open up the doors. Let's have this conversation and things like that. Because in grief, we will tend to have expectations of life, and then get disappointed when those expectations are not met through life, because they do not look the way that we assume they should. So how many times have you lied to yourself and saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is the way it should look, and then when it doesn't look that way, you get mad because it doesn't. We got a comment up here. I want to put this up here real quick. when it happens, having the empathetic ear is key. A lot of people talk out of the side of their neck. Jay, you're absolutely right, brother. You're absolutely right, right? But that's real talk, though. That's definitely real talk. So, give me your thoughts on that, and what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Well, definitely. I think a lot of times, like you said, people will just say, "Oh, I'm sorry you're going through that," or "Sorry for your loss," and they just they pat somebody on the back. But what we have to understand is grief is a process. It's not just that day of the funeral. It is onward from there. And so we have to make a conscious decision, and a conscious effort has to be given to not just leave that family where they are. And after, all the fried chicken has been eaten, we have to think past that. We have to say, what can I do? Can I send a text? I know someone recently that lost a loved one, and it grieved me because as a parent, he lost his child. And so it was impressed upon me to that he died on a specific day at a specific time. So I began to let's say Friday at that time, send something to just encouraging, because I know at that time he's thinking negative. And so quickly we can make a decision that will forever change our lives or the lives of those around us. And as we're going through grief, we feel like this is the worst thing that is going to happen to me. And so it is, again, rallying around that person, that family, and saying, what is it that I can do? And sometimes we think that what we do is minimal, but it is not. It doesn't require much. It requires a kind word. It requires just some consistency. They say that most people that contemplate suicide, if they had an 8-minute conversation, if somebody would sit with them for 8 minutes and talk about their problem, they probably would not go through with it. There's also some statistics that say that, most people, they think about in terms of committing suicide or hurting themselves. When they do that, the issue that they're contemplating, this horrible act, could be resolved within a 48-hour period. So we have to, in our busy lives, stop being so distracted and pay attention to, hey, what can I do? What can I say? Sometimes it's just the everyday interactions. I call it everyday evangelism. So everyday evangelism for me is a smile. It is smiling at people. And I am surprised how many people will say to me, your smile it just makes me happy. Or just saying, good morning. People don't speak to each other anymore. They don't, just exchange pleasantries. You never know what somebody's going through. And so we have to every day pay attention to that. But back again to families, people who are grieving, I know someone that what they do is one lady I remember, and I always remember this, when my mother passed away, she sent a card and it had postage stamps in there. And I was like, what am I going to do with these? But it was for the thank you cards, just those small acts of kindness that can last through that journey. Just think outside the box. We have to be out of the box thinkers. We are peculiar people, so we got to think differently than the world. We can't just send the fried chicken and go on about our business. We have to spend the time, because a lot of times time, that's what's most important. When I went through some of the worst seasons of my life, I didn't need necessarily things. I needed people. And so just being that person is so important. So important.
Tiffany, you bring up a good point, and I want to touch on it a little bit, because some people don't know how to show up. Right? Some people don't know how to show up, because I'm gonna use my I'm gonna use my experience a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When I went through the darkest moments of my life after losing my son, when my son passed away at 8, I had a dream of watching him become a good man in the world, right? He wanted to become a army sniper. Because he wanted to go out and help people.
Mm.
He told me this ever since he was, almost 4 years old. Daddy, I want to help people. I want to become a sniper. I said, why do you want to become a sniper? He goes, because I want to get rid of all the bad people.
Mm.
I said, man, that's crazy at the age of 4. And so I looked at him, I said, baby boy, I said, do you know what it takes to be be a sniper? He goes, yeah. I said, well, tell me what it is. I mean, I had a set of rules that he had to follow. I said, first and foremost, you have to be mentally prepared.
Mm.
You have to be mentally strong. You have to be respectful. You have to have morals.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have principles. You have to be disciplined. You got to keep straight A's in school.
Mm-hmm.
It starts now, protecting the people protect those kids on the playground that's being bullied by the bigger kids. Stepping away. A bully is not looking for somebody to fight with them. They're looking for somebody to fight on.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I said, most importantly, you got to stay in shape.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yes, sir. I said, all right. I said, so what does that mean? We broke that down. Meaning you got to get up, you got to do your chores, right? You got to know how to take care of yourself effectively.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed away, my son passed away, people didn't know the impact that it had on me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a dream of watching him become this individual.
Yes.
And what I found out was I lied to myself.
Mm.
See, I set expectations on life. And when things did not work out, life came back and said, who told you that?
Mm.
Well, and I talked to God, and God said, who told you that?
Mm-hmm.
I said, but you gave me this child. Like, I wasn't supposed to outlive my child. He goes, who told you that?
That's right.
Who told you that? I said, hold on, what you mean? He goes, oh, see, you had expectations, but no one told you that this was supposed to be this way.
That's right.
And I said, man. I said, well, why would you keep doing this to me?
Mm.
He goes, see, that's your problem. See, he put me in check. He said, that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, see, you keep thinking I keep doing stuff to you,
Mm.
not understanding what I'm giving you in return.
Yes.
Right? You said I'm doing it to you. I said I'm doing it for you.
For you. That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, see, you was strong and you wasn't listening to me. And I had this gift for you, but it had to be born out of pain.
Yes.
He goes, in, you remember that story, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall?
Yes.
He goes, hey, Humpty Dumpty, how you doing now? Can you put the pieces back together? I go, no. He goes, good. Now look in the mirror and tell me what you see. I said, who told you that?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we got a couple of messages over here. I want to put these up here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Colvin, I found Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's on Death and Dying valuable. I found tired. Okay, I found tired story to be unique. Do you have any contemplations on the stages of grief? Or no, found your story to be unique. So they're talking about your story. They found your story to be unique. Do you have any contemplations on the stages of grief? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for you. Also, some book said profound. Who told you that? I know, right? That's crazy. That's crazy. And Jay over here at Navigating Single Fatherhood Perspective Matters. So we're going to start with the first one from Metacosia.
Okay. It's as far as I remember, as my mother began to transition, and I told this story because I had a conversation with her, and I said, Mom, I had this fear of death, and I was like, I don't want my mom to die at my house, so we had made this pact, and I said, Mom, as you start to decline, we're going to send you to the hospice center, and that's what's going to happen, and I remember just a couple, maybe like a day or two before she does eventually pass, I told her, I said, you can renege on the deal. And really it was within, a few days she was deceased. But what I learned from it is that uh, we cannot orchestrate how something's going to happen,
Exactly.
and then we cannot get mad at God. I equate it like this. I said it's like God loaned that person to us,
Hmm.
and how dare we get mad? And so what I began to do is I started to look around in life, and although I felt like, oh, my mother got taken from me too quickly, I looked at it and said, well, you know what about that person who lost their mother when they were 1, or when they were a teenager, or when, or that parent that lost their child, as an infant, or whatever. And so again, it's renewing your mind and saying, you know what, God, I appreciate what you gave me. It is turning that pain into gratitude and saying, you know what? It doesn't matter. You gave me what you gave me in the time that you gave me. Let me thank you for what you did give to me. But the stages of grief are very challenging. At first, it's like, God, well, why? That's the first question. Why? Why did you do this? And that is a natural question to ask. um Everyone's asked it, but as we go through the voyage, we understand that, hey, the waves are going to come, it's going to ebb and flow. That grief is going to come, and it's going to seem like, oh my God, I can't make it through the day. There's certain days, certain holidays, I'm like, oh man, here we go.
Hmm.
But it is
Hmm.
renewing our mind and saying, you know what? Let me make something positive out of it. I had a friend, their parent passed, and what they did is on their parents' birthday, they all got together. They were all scattered, in different states. They all got together on a Zoom call, and they talked about what they missed and what they appreciated about her. So we have to begin to make new memories, make new traditions. One thing that I learned from my mother's passing was, I remember as a kid the smells of, in the morning, Saturday morning, there was some bacon and eggs and this. And so I wanted to make sure that my children had that same muscle memory of those smells and all of those things. So it is looking at what has happened, and then looking towards the future and saying, how can I progress? How can I make things better?
Yes. And we got a few more comments coming out. Just put up one from navigating single fatherhood. Focus on the time that you have with them and not the time that you are missing with them.
That's right.
I'm going to touch on that. My dear friend on Instagram wants some book. Renewing your mind, yes, gratitude. She's another amazing person that I've had on the show, and she's been coming on and just supporting us and everything. Another amazing person. So if you ever get the chance, please look her up. Y'all. As a matter of fact, y'all two should really connect. I think y'all can do some pretty amazing things. But I want to focus on that, right? Because not to push back, but to add to it, right? Because there's always two sides to everything. And again, when I say this, I'm saying it from my own experience,
Mhm.
right? Um, sometimes sometimes it's hard to focus on what you're missing from them, because sometimes it's hard to remind yourself that they're not coming back.
That's true.
And when you've experienced deep loss, deep loss is deep love.
That's right.
And I don't care who you are, that's a heartbreak.
It is.
So if you've ever had your first heartbreak and you know what that experience felt like, you know it felt like the end of the world.
Yes.
You can't breathe. Oh, you can't eat. Can't sleep because your mind is constantly racing. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to get past. It takes time because it's like that every day. Over time, you learn to breathe again, but it still doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Depending on the individual. Some people can move through. Some people can grow with it. Some people get stuck in it.
Yes.
And it's all okay.
Yes.
It's all okay. The key to it is that you have to keep breathing. You have to have a little grace for yourself. Because in the beginning, you're going to stumble and it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be hard. Your faith is going to be shaken.
Yes.
You said something. I want to add to what you said. We want to get mad at God. I said, get mad at him because he can take it.
That's right. He can.
He wants you to. Here's what I learned during the process. And I want to talk about the 5 stages of grief as well. During the process of healing and understanding and allow my gift of grief to manifest itself and fall in love with it the way that I am today, right? I owe it all to this beautiful gift that was inside of me that I never really paid attention to. But God said, I got you.
Yes.
I cracked you open so you can see what I've given you.
Yes.
But now that you open, don't close. We're going to have to shed the old skin in multiple layers in order for this thing to come out. I said, okay. And I followed that path, and it was a beautiful thing. That is a hard place to navigate, because when I was mad at God, I told God, I said, look, I can't believe that you hurt me this much. I was obedient. Because, see, I worked on my relationship because I wanted one. I didn't have a father figure, right? Or a role model, right? You know what I'm saying? When I got older, my father was already gone, right? And I definitely didn't want the role models of the people on the street. They was already role models. They taught me how to survive. But I didn't know how to be a good father. So my role model became God. And I followed his voice. I followed his heart and what he was giving me and teaching me to be a good man. My son taught me how to be a good father. So I knew I wanted that, right? I wanted to be able to love people unconditionally. I wanted to forget the wrongdoings. So I followed that. And God said, hey, whoever wrongdoing, forget it, right? Once you have to forget it, let it go. And I began to practice those things, right? Discernment and kindness and gratitude and appreciation. Because I was living life. I was a father, but I didn't understand it fully. I didn't understand the responsibilities of being a man. I didn't understand the responsibilities of being a father and things like that. And so in combination, I was getting better, right? And so when I got hurt, I went to God and I said, I don't want to talk to you no more. I think I'm done with you. And God said, okay. Do you think so? I said, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I said, see, I did everything you asked me to do. I was obedient. I walked the path. I didn't go out here and do those things. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go back to who I was. I walked the walk and talked the talk. I was obedient. I said, and then you go and just do me like this. One thing that I learned after that, when I was sitting there and I was about to take my life, God said, God said, "Oh, you thought your life was about you, huh?"
Mm. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's true.
Yeah, I said, huh? He goes, "Yo, you thought your life was about
Yeah.
you." I said, "But did you not see what I went through?" And
Yeah.
God said, "Oh yeah, I saw all of that. I saw." I said, "Then where was you at? Where was you at?" He goes, "Oh, you didn't catch the part where you know what I'm saying. It didn't look like what you thought it should have. When I got you into that abandoned building, right? You know what I'm saying. You didn't have to sleep out there on the street. When what about when the dumpster, right? Remember
Mm.
the dumpster that you jumped in? Those extra blankets was in there. Oh, who you think put those in there?
Uh-huh.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, the times that you was behind the dumpster waiting for the dude to bring out the donuts. Yeah, he knew you was there. Why you think
Mm.
he stopped putting them inside of the dumpster and started putting them beside of the dumpster?
Uh-huh.
Right? Oh, you didn't see that part,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
didn't see that. Oh, see, you was too worried about going back to the hood because that was a safe point, but you didn't see the other side where I put you over here and I protected you. Remember the night that you had to walk in a blizzard? Yeah, who kept you warm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But you didn't have any jacket though, but you still stayed warm.
That's true.
Who you think did that?
That's true.
Right?
That's
Who
true.
oh, see, you was too busy moving around, but you didn't know I was protecting you.
Yeah.
See, the whole time I was moving you around, there was people looking to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And I protected you. See, you didn't see that part.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
so when you think about it, your life has never been about you.
That's right.
It's been about what you're doing now. And so I want to bring up this comment over here from Watson Book. When you learn that our loved ones are on loan to us, we can love them more deeply.
Yes.
Oh my God, sweetie, I'm so sorry. You just lost your grandmother. Hey guys, show that support for her, please.
Yes. Yeah.
As a community, guys, we know how this is. You know what I'm saying? My love and my heart is with you, my friend.
Yeah.
And it deeply. I feel it deeply in my heart with you. If you need anything, any support, please be sure to reach out. You
Mhm.
have a whole community over here with you, so
Yeah.
you don't have to walk it alone. You know, and I know you're going to try to be strong and everything. I've been seeing your posts. I'll be seeing your posts, and I know you're strong. But you don't have to walk it alone. You got some good people over here to with you. Okay, so please keep that in mind. I want to touch on the stages of grief. I want people to understand that the stages of grief, right? Kubler Ross's stages of grief was actually written for people who were going through terminal illness,
Mhm.
right? And they're good pillars. It's designed for you to add to those things, right?
Mhm.
It's not the end all be all to a blueprint, right? You know what I'm saying? But it is a blueprint for you to be able to add and take away from. So don't be afraid to explore those options.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're good. She had 95 beautiful. Oh, now see, that's a beautiful blessing right there. But again, again, that offer is still there. That offer is still there. I know I've heard that before too. I'm good. Shake my finger at you. Uh, all right. It's
Yeah.
nothing but love and respect for her.
Yeah.
She's a beautiful soul. Beautiful, beautiful soul.
Yeah.
So now I say that to say this, right? Because I think what happens a lot of times is that people misinterpret the emotional aspect that comes along with that, and
Mm.
it begins to conflict with their faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? But not understanding that it is working along with it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts?
We know that God said that he would comfort us, and so he sent a comforter, the Holy Spirit, to be with us. But regardless of all of that, we are still here in these human flesh bodies,
Mhm.
and And I always say it this way. I say that the enemy is in our emotions a lot of times. And so the enemy a lot of times comes and says, you know what? Nobody cares. You know, that person's left you. You're all alone. You're abandoned. If he can get us isolated, that just like, you know, he left the 99 for the one. Why was the one off by himself? Because if he can have you isolated, then he can mess in the battlefield of your mind and tell you that, you know, things are never going to get better. You're not just going through it. It's going to last forever, because we've all been there. In that moment, our weighted thing, you know, it says to put away every weight that beseeches us. And so we have to think about the fact that what is a weight? You know, for one person, a weight is a $10 bill. For another person, a weight is a car payment. For another person, a weight is a tax bill for thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is. But what we have to think about is that God is just not a genie in a bottle. And a lot of times we treat him like that, and we go, well, let me come to him when I need something big. You know, if somebody's got cancer, let me pray for him. But I call that the compartmentalization of God. And so we should not do that. He cares about the smallest things. He cares about every tear that we shed. If he cares about every hair in our head, then he cares about every one of those tears, and he captures those tears. And so we have to remember that. Even Jesus wept. So if Jesus wept, why do we feel like we are so robust that we won't weep? And sometimes we have to get clear with God and clear with ourselves and say, you know what? Create in me a clean heart, renew a right spirit, help me. We have to surrender. And the hardest thing is surrendering it to him, because just like you said earlier, we a lot of times have never seen a trusting father. We've never seen that role model of what it should look like. So how now are we going to trust this man, this thing that we can't see, and have faith in it? But we have to learn little by little. It's just like being in a romantic relationship. You have to cultivate that intimacy. You have to spend time with him. He spends time with you. It's a dance, you know. It's not just one-sided. And we get to a point where we're like, Lord, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me. And then when he takes something away, we want to look at him sideways. And that's not the way it is. That's not the way it should be. We should still wake up every day and say, you know what, Lord, you allowed the sun to shine. You know, and when we start to focus on those things, then our problems get a lot smaller. And then when we go and we look around and we say, you know what, I may not have my child, but there's somebody else going through the same thing that I'm going through. How can I help them? You know, and like you said, just having a servant's heart, you know, that is so big. And we've now become the hands and feet of God in our day-to-day interactions. And we help someone else out of the abyss of grief that they are in.
Yeah. But it's hard, you know, and you know, and that's why we have these conversations too, right? Because we want people to understand, you know, like you're going to go through some hard things, some things you may not understand. And that's totally fine. That's part of life, right? But it's not happening to you. It's happening for you. I know it's a hard concept for people to grasp and things like that. But if you look at the people that are on this screen right now, right? Tiffany has gone through some crazy stuff. She's gone through a go through. But she's also became this beautiful, wonderful, amazing person that she is today. A lot of other people that I've had on my show, you guys have seen amazing people out here serving other people, still doing the things, you know what I'm saying, taking what they've gone through and helping people, right? So that's a beautiful thing. And I love that. I love that for people. That's what I want for people, right? To be surrounded by people like yourself and like Onson and you know, Jay Lewis and a lot of people that's been tuning in, ABC Grief and a lot of great people that's been tuning in over here. I want them to be surrounded by these individuals to grab on to some of what you carry
Yeah.
until they're able to develop their own.
Yes.
Now, you wrote a book,
Yes.
so let's talk about what made you decide to write a book.
So, I had always loved writing, and in in the journey of life and everything that I was going through, I was writing sermons, and I was like, "Well, Lord, I'm not going to get up and start preaching these sermons." And I was like, "Well, why do you have me, writing all these devotions?" And I started out with, "Oh, I'm going to write a children's book." And then I loved writing poetry, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do a poetry book." And then it was like he shifted everything and he said, "Write a devotional." And so it is a compilation of all of the things that I experienced, whether it was grief, dealing with children with disabilities, dealing with loss, dealing with family matters, looking at what is a good man versus a God man. What does the family structure need to look like? All of the things that I had learned or maybe read in the Bible, it says that we are to study to show ourselves approved. And a lot of times we don't even take the time to study. We go get master's degrees, PhDs, we get all these things, but we don't study the greatest handbook that there is, and that is the Word of God. And so what I did is I kind of put those things together and into a book called Your Daily Ticket. And it's a catchy little thing. I was once in the airline business, and we all need a ticket. We
Yeah.
all need to understand that, hey, in life, we're going to go through some things. We're going to need some validation. We're going to need some redemption. We're going to need these things. And so the book starts, it starts out with a devotional for the day, and then it has a prayer. And it makes it uniform so that that person can read it. And as they are going through any and everything in life, there is something for everyone. It is not just, oh, this is for women or this is for men. It is for everyone. It is for every race, color, creed. I always say, if you want to get it, you can get it on Amazon. If you want to get it and donate it to someone else, if you know someone that's going through grief, if you know someone that's going through a loss, that's going through a job loss, that's feeling like, hey, life is just not worth living, then guess what? This book is for you, because it is a purpose driven book. And hopefully at the end, what you will see is that all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. And that was my mother's favorite verse. And so we know that our footsteps are ordered by God. And so we have to go back to our first love, because that's what I had to do. I had to get to the point that I was at the lowest of the lowest. And it says that every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess. And sometimes we have some haughty spirits, and so we have to get to a point where we say, God, I surrender everything to you. I do not know how to do this. And so help me to go through life and see things from the vantage point that you do, not from the way I see it. Help me not to have an attitude, and help me to understand. I had to even understand as far as forgiveness. And people are like, well, you've forgiven some people of some dirty things. And I look at it this way. I never want anything. I look at it as a string from me to God. And I never want anyone or anything to sever that relationship. When we allow someone else that much control in our lives, and even as we talk about grief, sometimes people are mad at people who are in the grave, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be, because if there is a God that forgave us, and I think about that all the time when I want to get mad at somebody. I'm like, if there is a God that forgave me, they gave his only begotten son for my sins, if I should decide, not that I would, but if I should decide to follow him, then you know what? I can forgive this person for what they've done. And I think when we walk around with that type of attitude, blessings do flow, and we learn how to have a servant's heart. So I tell you, I'm not just saying it because I wrote it, but I wrote it. It wasn't a ghostwriter. It wasn't anybody else. I wrote it. And it is just a great handbook. I've gotten very good feedback. People say they love the prayers. They love that I'm transparent about my life and what I've gone through, because I do believe that, hey, I don't want somebody else to tell my story. I'll tell it myself. And if it'll help someone else, then it was worth it for me to write it.
Yes. Now, I got one more question for you before I let you go. Thank you for that as well. People go, her information is in the YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, go there, grab your copy, and let her know that Tony sent you over there and everything, so she knows. But now, how can people find you?
How can people find me? So again, the book is on Amazon. I can also be reached at, I'm on Facebook, Tiffany Colvin, Colvin. On Instagram, Tiffany Colvin 75 at Instagram. Also, I have a ministry that I'm beginning, which is faith-based apparel that kind of goes along with some of the chapters in the book, and that is Divine Designs D2. And then you can find us on Facebook there as well. And for Autism Awareness Month, because I believe that everyone has the ability to pursue their God-given purpose, despite what labels are being placed on them. I bring awareness to that. I'm an advocate for autism. And for Autism Awareness Month, we have a special t-shirt, sweatshirt for that in itself. And so again, I just want to encourage the people, no matter what you're going through, keep going one step at a time. Find a good core of friends, find a church, find a family, understand that this too shall pass, and you are a winner and you are an overcomer.
That's amazing. So one more question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, what would it be? I would probably want everyone to, I would say, experience unconditional love.
I knew you was going to say that.
You didn't know that?
I did. I was over here thinking I bet you, I can almost guess there's going to be unconditional love because it's part of who you are.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It radiates off of you.
Yeah.
So it's only obvious through the conversation that we had that, you're like, that's what I want for people.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful superpower.
That's my superpower.
That's your superpower.
But we all have the ability to utilize that superpower. I call it everyday evangelism. It is smiling. It is saying, it is showing people unconditional love. It may not be reciprocated, but sometimes a good morning will change a person's life.
Exactly. Now, one last thing. If you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
I would leave them with this verse. It says, "It was good that I was afflicted so that I might learn your statutes." A lot of times when we go through things, we think, God, why is this happening to me? But the thing is there's a lesson to be learned. There is a lesson, and you have to take the time not to be discontented, but to understand the lesson that he's trying to teach you. Because everything is a lesson. And it is a lesson not just for you, but for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation, to leave a legacy of faith. That is the most important treasure you could leave to your children, because when you are gone, it doesn't matter how much money you leave to them. If they don't know how to steward it, and they don't know how to go through life with faith, it's all for nothing.
I love that. Wow. Such an amazing conversation. But I knew it was going to happen anyway. For the first time that we talked, we had such a great conversation. So I didn't expect anything less. But this one was awesome. It's freaking awesome. And so, with that being said, guys, if this is your first time tuning in, please, yeah, her information is there, guys. Her information is there. You can pick up the book on Amazon. So her information is in the YouTube channel. Go there, check it out, click on it, get you a copy, and yeah, guys, have fun. All right, have fun. But also, as Ms. Colvin said, unconditional love is a superpower. So please go out there and have it for everyone, because sometimes you just never know who may need it. Right? Love those who are incapable of loving themselves at this moment, because they need to be uplifted. They need to be cared for. They need to be talked to with kindness and love and life. All right. For everyone who have been tuning in. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to just say, I applaud you. My condolences, and I say to you, I thank you for creating this space, because a lot of times, people will just isolate, and to be able to have an arena that they can come, and they may not have to say a thing, and sometimes that's just what they need. They just need to know that there's somebody else out there that's going through what they're going through. So I applaud you. I thank you for your efforts. I thank you for finding me worthy to be a guest on your platform. But again, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Encourage other people, because sometimes we don't necessarily see what it's doing, but it's effective. It's helping people. And so again, I thank you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. For everyone who has been tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, do me a favor. If you have not already, show support to the channel. Head on over to the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, share this along with them. This podcast serves more than just conversations. There's people up here with the information waiting for you to reach out to them. So please reach out to them. We got something for everyone. For everyone else out there that have been doing this, thank you for allowing me to keep bringing these conversations to you guys. I love you guys. Guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I love you. We're going to see you guys in the next one. All right.
Bye-bye.